Hi there, this is Andrew from Hot Tub Focus, and again we're going to have a bit of a think about something to do with hot tubs today. And the big question today is, should you get a saltwater hot tub or change your hot tub to a saltwater system? There's a lot of detail on this on a really big blog post that I've written, which I've linked to below. So this video is just a little bit of an outline, a little bit of an introduction to this fairly big subject. I've become, as I've done a bit more research on this, become a bit more concerned about sitting in a tub of chemicals, which is basically what you're doing if you're sitting in a chlorine or a bromine hot tub, which we've all been doing for a very long time. I wrote a post fairly recently about the environmental impact of hot tubs and also the health implications of sitting in a vat or a tub of chlorine, which is essentially what you're doing. And it really got me thinking, it really got me quite concerned. There's obvious health risks with chlorine and bromine, the irritation to the skin, respiratory problems, and things like that. And there's also some not conclusive evidence about links to other things which aren't particularly reassuring. So I've been really carefully looking at different sanitization systems with a view to possibly changing, and the salt water system seems to be, well, it's the big thing at the moment. All the hot tub manufacturers are sort of touting it as being the answer to all our problems, and to a certain extent it is, and to a certain extent it's not. So let's look at some pros and cons. As I say, there's more detail in the big blog post I wrote, but this will give you a bit of an overview. So first of all, let's look at the good things about this saltwater sanitization system. Well, the first thing is that, in theory at least, it is environmentally more friendly. Salt is a naturally occurring substance, and all you do, really, it's very, very simple, is you add salt to the water in the hot tub, literally pour the stuff in, and you test the water to get the correct amount of salinity, is the technical term, isn't it, with a test strip. Chuck the salt in, it's cheap, it's easy, environmentally friendly, and you don't have to do it an awful lot. And then by process of electrolysis, there's basically the salt water goes through into a chlorine generating cell. And essentially there's a small electrical charge which takes out the chloride, which is again chlorine, come back to that in a minute, the chlorine molecules of the salt, which is a naturally occurring chlorine, and that chlorinates the water. The chlorine from saltwater systems, though, doesn't smell really badly and it doesn't irritate your skin. So that's the first thing. It seems environmentally sound, it seems very low maintenance. That's all you have to do. It sort of theoretically, a good saltwater system will create the right amount of chlorine at the right amount of time, and you won't over-chlorinate and you won't under-chlorinate, and you know the whole chemical thing is a lot more natural, which is a good thing. And you're not sitting in that horrible smell, though I actually don't mind the smell of chlorine. It sort of reminds me of childhood swimming expeditions and with happy times, and it's a sort of clean smell to me, but I'm lucky. I don't really get any irritation. It irritates my eyes, but it doesn't do my skin, or I don't care if my hair's a bit dry. So salt water is also nicer to sit in. Now, you're thinking of salt water, and maybe you're thinking of like floating in the Dead Sea. It's not like that. In fact, if you've been to a high-end spa and sat in a hot tub in a nice hotel or a hot spa or something, the chances are it's a salt water sanitization system that they're using there. They're high end, or they're supposedly high end. You can't tell that it's salt water. It's not like being in the Dead Sea. It's not like being in the sea. If you tasted it, you're not even going to taste the salt in it, and I wouldn't recommend tasting any hot tub water at all. But it doesn't taste salty, but it feels softer. It has a more enveloping, sort of softer texture to it because it's soft water. It's salted. So and it looks good as well. It looks clear. The other things about it, you don't need to change water as often. It's supposedly you only need to change the water once a year. Can you imagine that, rather than every 3 or 4 months, which is great if you're wanting to save water and save time. It's also really cheap to run. It's a theoretically, it's a set it and leave it and forget it system. You just chuck the salt in occasionally to keep the salt levels up. And it's self-cleaning and it's self-maintaining. So those are the things that's being said about it. There's a number of disadvantages I've come across which have sort of really swayed my opinion the other way though. First thing is that if you don't have a good saltwater system, then it will produce too much chlorine, not enough chlorine, and the water won't be clear. And there's also, depending on where you read, you also still need to shock the tub with chlorine, and occasionally you might need to just give it a chlorine boost, particularly when you're starting the thing up. It takes 72 hours sometimes for the chlorine from a saltwater system to actually build up. And it might just need a chlorine boost before that. So it's maybe not totally chemically chlorine free to keep it clean. It'll depend on your tub. It'll depend on how often you use it, how dirty your tub gets, and how filthy they are the people that go in it. So that's the thing. The other thing about it is that apparently the pH can rise over time, and you're going to be encouraged with a saltwater system not to check your water particularly frequently, because you're being led to believe it's a set it and forget it system, and you're not going to check your chlorine level. So the chances are that the pH is going to rise, the chlorine might go out, and you don't want to be sitting in a high pH bath of water. It's bad for your skin and it's bad for the hot tub. There's also, talking about things that's bad for the hot tub, we all know what salt and metal, the corrosive properties of salt and metal together are not good. So if your hot tub isn't specifically designed to take a saltwater system, your heating element could well corrode, any metal fittings could corrode, the internal bits could corrode. Swings and roundabouts. If you've got an old hot tub and you want to change to a saltwater system, it's relatively easy to do, and actually it might be well worth it. You might want to change your heating element, which is a sort of consumable anyway, and risk it with the other bits and pieces. If you've got a newish hot tub, particularly if it's under warranty and it's not specifically designed for saltwater systems, then actually you might really not want to do it. Having said that though, if it is designed for a saltwater system, there'll be no problem. You can get heating elements that are anodized. I think they are the rust proof, for want of a better expression. They don't corrode in salt water. The big thing for me that really sort of swung my feeling the other way was that I have read, digging into the internet, about splash problems with salt water and it splashing onto your decking and staining the decking, and the recommendation being to hose your deck down after your hot tub. Who wants to bother doing that? I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sound so good to me. And the whole thing about, well, cost and the environment, it's more expensive to set up. It's cheaper to run, theoretically. But you do need to, and this is the big thing, you do need to change the chlorine generator cells on a regular basis. Now, this will depend on the system. It might be not that often, it might be quite frequently. They may be inexpensive or they may be fairly cheap, depending on what you're using. But most importantly, I can't find anything that says that these cells are environmentally friendly and can be recycled or got rid of in a friendly way to the environment. They just have to go in landfill, I think. I might be wrong on that, but that's my sense at the moment. I can't find anything to the contrary on that. If you do, leave me something in the comments. But I sort of think, well, what's the point? In that case, it's not actually particularly environmentally friendly. The whole point in changing to this saltwater system is to help the environment, for it to be cheaper. But if the cells are expensive and you just have to chuck them in the bin, then it sort of defeats the object to me. And you're still sitting in flipping chlorine, aren't you? It is still chlorine after all, which isn't that nice. It's a nicer version of chlorine, but it's still chlorine. So I don't know. I haven't changed at the moment. I was all set on changing when I started doing the research for this post, but I'm not convinced now. And I wonder if a really well-maintained chlorine hot tub, maybe with an ozonator, is the way to go. Not sure. Okay, well, I hope that's been really helpful and inconclusive. Read the post, because it's a little bit more detailed and possibly a little bit less waffly than I am on video, and the link will be below. Subscribe if this has been helpful, and go and visit hottubfocus.com for all more things and more information about hot tubs. Thanks ever so much. See you in the next video.